Are you guys ready to go full walrus? Woo! Put your hands together for Kevin Smith!
Hello. Sit down, it's a stupid movie. Sit down.
So I understand you're going to introduce us to Team Walrus.
Yes,
Team Tusk.
the Tuskateers, as we call them. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for, before we even bring them out, just to kind of give a shout out, the main man himself, Michael Parks, is not here tonight. He's been unwell, but we're going to pass on your good wishes to him. I heard all the love you had for his performance. I can't wait to communicate it to him. But without these three kids, we got no fucking picture, man. Give it up for Justin, Genesis, and Haley.
Yeah.
So, just to kind of recap for people who might not know, how the hell did this project come about?
It was, for those that don't know, I do a podcast. I do many podcasts. I obviously like the sound of my own voice. And one of the podcasts I do is called Smodcast. You heard it just at the, for those people know it. You heard it just at the end of the movie. That was me and my friend Scott Mosier talking. That was an episode of Smodcast 259. We called it The Walrus and the Carpenter. And it was us talking about the story we read online, man. It went around for a little while, memed a little bit. And it was about a guy who in England who was offering room for rent to a potential lodger. All you had to do in exchange was dress up like a walrus. So we were like, what? Well, why is this fucking real? And spent the whole podcast like diving into it, being like, this is nuts. Then we started building like a movie. Like on Smodcast, we just make fun of shit and have a good time, make pretend as adults. So we sat there making pretend. I was like, this is like a walrus movie. This is a horror movie. This is like the human walrus, man. Like you're gonna go to this dude's place. He's gonna fucking knock you out, sew you into that suit for life. So you can hear on the podcast, we just sit there goofing and making ourselves laugh and whatnot. But at the end of the podcast, you hear something different. Like Scott's ready to go home, and like that was fun. And I'm sitting there going like, we're on to something, you know? And I only respected this because it only happened one other time in my life. I swear to God, man. That's why it's kind of fitting that we're here 20 years after Clerks debut. There's one time in my life where I loved comedies and stuff. I used to love watching Animal House, was my favorite comedy of all time. But this is a comedy in which like I didn't identify with the main protagonist all that much. Like I remember being like, they killed a horse, even by accident. I would never do that, you know? So there's always a disconnect with the movies I love. So I always wanted to see me and my friends on the screen, right? Like fucking me and my friends sit around talking about Star Wars and pussy and shit like that. How come nobody ever does movies about that? And I would literally sit around and lament the fact that nobody was making movies about me and my friends. And then one day it hit me. Nobody gives a fuck about you and your friends. The only person that cares about you and your friends is you. So if you want to see a movie about you and your friends, fucking make it. And that was Clerks, and that changed my life. So 20 years later, nearly, I was sitting there recording this podcast. We're sitting there talking about this dopey walrus movie, and you can hear it. We sampled it a little at the end there, but you can hear the whole thing on the actual podcast. I have a kind of mind snap, because I sit there going like, God, I want to see this movie. I fall in love with the idea of this weird human walrus movie. And I'm like, why won't someone make it? I don't understand. What an unfair world. And then finally, like, I had a snap where it was just like, nobody is ever going to make this fucking walrus movie. If you want to see it, make it yourself. You used to make movies. And so I in podcasts, as you hear it, like, at the end there, we threw up, I said, there's hashtag walrus yes on Twitter. I'm a big Twitter fan. I said, say hashtag walrus yes if you think this is a good idea. If you want to see me write this and shit. Walrus no if you think it's stupid. So the next morning, after the podcast went live, thousands upon thousands of walrus yes. Only one walrus no.
That was me.
Yeah. It was weird. It was this really nice moment where like a bunch of strangers took the time, a few seconds, just to be like, fucking Walrus, yes, I would love to see you crash your career again. And for whatever reason, the fact that they took the time to do it, and I sat there that morning, I was waiting to hear word back on whether we got financing on Clerks 3. And I said, I'm back in that same fucking position I always hated, where I'm waiting for a gatekeeper to tell me I can produce my art. And I'd come from the world of podcasting now, where all I could do is just make my art on a moment's notice. When you're making films, you want to express yourself. You say stupid shit like, give me $20 million and Ben Affleck. You know what I'm saying? But in a podcast, you can sit down and just start talking and stuff. So the immediacy of the podcast, of the podcast medium kind of fed into the movie thing, and I was just like, you know what, man, like let's do it. Let's push whimsy. So it wasn't grand plan, like I gotta fucking see the Apple guy in a walrus suit. No, nothing like that. Next time you stand there quiet when I tell the story. It wasn't like that, kids. It was pushing whimsy, man. It was just every day. I was like, let me see if people thought it was a good idea. Let me see if I can write. I wrote a few pages, showed my wife, who generally isn't really a big fan of anything I do professionally. Personally, she likes me very much, but she don't like those chainsaw problems. So anyway, I showed her the first 15 pages. She goes, this is fucked up, man. Like, where's it going? I said, I have no idea. And she goes, well, finish it. I would like to see it. And so I started finishing it, and then I started looking for money, found these awesome people, Demarass. They were like, Sam Engelbart, I will never forget, absolute hero. The only reason why I was sitting here watching tonight is because he came to my house and he pointed at the script. He goes, are you fucking serious? And I was like, yeah, I think it'd be weird. So enough people got behind it when we were just pushing whimsy. I called this guy, I'd worked with him before, I loved him a great deal. And to his credit, man, this dude was like, I'll be honest with you, my agent told me not to do this movie. I said, gee, I wonder why. And yet here he is, he did it. Why'd you do it?
I felt like I just had to. There was no question, and I'm no longer with that agent. Not because it turned out the way it did, and I like the way it turned out, but it was the one time they were really opinionated about something, and she was like, you absolutely can't do this. But I love working with Kevin, and we, like you said, we've worked together a few times before, and I did it mostly because I just wanted to see if he could do it. I just kind of wanted to be, it was like overwhelming curiosity, and then we started shooting, and a bunch of the guys in the crew, we had a great crew, and I talked to a lot of them, and the overwhelming majority said the same thing. They were like, I was like, what are you doing here? Like, you had an offer to do this bigger thing or that thing. They're like, I just kind of want to see if you could do it. Just curiosity, I guess.
There was a lot of that, man. There was enough people. You get enough people going, I just wonder if this could work. Whether positive or negative, whether it's because like, boy, I hope they succeed, or whether it's like, oh, I can't wait to watch this fail. Either way, man, there was a little support, and every day we just pushed it along, and suddenly it became fucking...
I also didn't have that much to lose, let's face it, so it wasn't like, I wasn't gambling with anything that made me.
And the rest of Team Tusk, like when this landed on your lap, what did you think when you first both read it? Like, how did this, is this a walrus yes or a walrus no?
I got the script from Kevin. I hadn't heard the podcast. I just saw the title Tusk. I was in public at a restaurant reading it and was just laughing, which I think we had an experience here tonight. You can tell we obviously had no fun making this movie. Yeah, it was just, I answered yes before I even finished the script. You know, it's, I knew it was going to be this fun, and we really enjoyed working together, and it's just a fun movie. It's a fun movie to share with you guys, and thank you all for staying. This is kind of amazing.
I read it at 12 o'clock at night. Huge mistake, because I was scared out of my mind, but I became obsessed with that idea. I became obsessed with the walrus and the wallace. And Wallace Russ. It was great script. Anyway, I just kept on hearing Tusk and I'm a walrus, and I was like, I want to go full walrus. So there you go.
One of the things that I like about this is the storytelling within it, because you've got stories within stories. Like everyone's got their story, and you're pulling a lot of different inspirations and kind of throws. I mean, this is definitely a modern Lovecraft, really.
Oh my God, that's very flattering. I don't know if there's any craft at all. Honestly, it's. What was the first question you asked before you said? I got so swept away with Lovecraft. I was like,
It's stories upon stories within. Like
here's me as a filmmaker, folks. Like back in the day, I wasn't very good at the job, and I'm still not that good at the job. But I used to tell stories very personally. Like Clerks existed because I worked in a convenience store, and I had a friend who worked at the video store next door. And Mallrats exists because I'm at the mall with my friends, and we were getting misadventures. And Chasing Amy exists because, I was a sexually insecure male at one point who couldn't deal with a girlfriend's past, and stuff. Dogma exists because I was Catholic. So I was never very creative or very talented. I just took from my real life and kind of put it into movies and shit. So suddenly I get to a place in my career where I'm kind of out of the personal things to say, and it was scary. It was why I walked away. One of the main reasons I was like, fuck, the only way I know how to do this job is to pull it from the heart, from the soul, to tell stories that mean something to me because they came from my real world. And without that ability anymore, who the fuck am I? I'm the guy making cop out and stuff. So I was able to push away because I love film so much. I didn't want to stick around, overstay the welcome, and abuse the muse and stuff like that. Not Jason Muse, the music. So I stepped away. But when this happened, when this podcast happened, it really captured my imagination. As I said, I was like, I want to see this movie. But I kind of got to this place where I was like, you know what, man, I'm old enough. I've done this job long enough. Some people have said I'm cool at it. Some people have written me off. Like, I've run the full fucking ride, and now I'm almost back at the beginning and stuff. So let me just do the job the way I've always wanted to. Just do everything you want. One of the things I love is showcasing performance. One of the only reasons I got into films is because I love actors, not like hanging out with them and shit, but I love the lie that tells the truth. I love how somebody, these three talented cats, can take words written on a page, spit it out at you, make it seem like they just thought about it that second. Like, I've always been in love with that. So when you look at my films or you go to stuff that I've done, it's never about like, look at what he did with the camera, unless it's like, look, he never moved it. You know, it's I'm not into that aspect of filmmaking. I love what other filmmakers are. I love big splashy filmmaking and whatnot. I just don't prefer to do it myself because I can't. What I like to do in film, what I like to showcase is performance. I love to put a fucking camera on an actor like Genesis, staring down the barrel of a lens, and she tells you this fucking monologue while she's crying. She busts through this story, and you're just sitting there watching another person tell a story in a movie theater. You know, you could be watching fucking Thor beat up the Hulk or some such shit, but instead I'm just untalented enough to aim a camera at an actor and be like, go, be magical and shit. So that's what I like to do, man. And in this movie, there's lots of that. And the best kind of stories to me, the movies I like to make, I know it doesn't make sense. I was on a movie with Bruce Willis once, and every day he kept saying, like, why is everyone talking? It's a movie, we should move. And I was like, that sounds so fucking simple. But he's right, it's a movie, it should move. But I don't like making those kind of movies. I like paying to see them, but I like making movies where you just sit down and watch people tell stories. Tusk is a movie about storytelling, the dangers of storytelling. And it's packed with people who literally at one point in the movie go, let me tell you a story, and just start talking and whatnot. So this is, for me, is like actor porn. I could watch this movie again and again and again because I like watching actors tell stories and make it so convincingly you believe it's happening. Simple but true.
Before I open up the floor here, I want to ask you the question, or just kind of the advice, for any young filmmakers in the audience. I mean, you just went ahead and did this. What advice would you give them? Because you're at a point in your career, as you said, you're kind of waiting for these gatekeepers, and all the technology, everything's there, just go ahead and make a movie. So what would you say to...
I mean, it's the mind killer, as they say, in Dune is fear, right? And in this, when you're creative, the thing that kills you right away is somebody shitting on your idea. Now, I was lucky. When I started my career 20 years ago, you know, the only people you really had to worry about shitting on your dreams were people that wrote about film and media, and journalists or film critics or something like that. But now, 20 years later, everybody has a voice. And it's so sad. I can't imagine what it's like to try to kind of be expressing yourself now, creating your art, starting your journey, man. That million-mile journey begins with a single step. The single step is the fucking hardest step to take. And when people go to take that step, the world now is waiting with tweets to be like, fuck you. Oh, I'm gonna bust his fucking nuts. So it's really difficult to like get something going. Not that way. But it's really difficult to get something going because so many people will kind of like stomp that creativity down by being like, oh my God, that's stupid. Why would you do anything at all? You know, or something like that. So I feel it's really difficult now for somebody to get their shit going because you're always facing like this far more vast, intimidating sea of negativity and no. Nothing but no, fucking why. This thing that always bugs me. People are like, why? Why would you do that? I told some people about the Walrus movie bidding, and I was like, I'm gonna write this fucking Walrus movie. I think we're gonna do it. They were like, why? That sounds stupid. And I was like, why? Just how about flip that? Just make it why not. You give me why not, I can accomplish anything. These fucking cats said why not. Even when agents were like, don't fucking do this, they were like, why not? Let's give it a shot. And we did, and it turned into something. Goes for you cats too, and I'll tell you, there was a moment that crystallized the whole process for me. We put up that dopey podcast, and you know, it's the same as it is every week. I sit there and blaze and laugh with Scott Mosier. Keeps me young, it's wonderful shit. I recommend, don't listen to it, do your own. But as I kind of sat there and was like, oh, I would like to take this and try to do something with it, man. There was a moment where some cats were like, don't bother, why? And I was just like, you know what? If I don't do this, I'll regret it for the rest of my life, but I didn't fucking give it a shot. I was sitting here on the precipice, and instead I just backed away. Just don't back away. Give it a shot. We're all gonna fucking die one day, man. And like, in that world where death is inevitable, why not just spend your life and all your time trying to make all your wildest dreams come true? Why not? Now, if your wildest dream is to hunt children or humans, I'm not talking to you. But if it's about art and shit like that, like, take a shot. If it's about opening up a cupcake store, take a fucking shot. Like, there's no point in being like, I should have done it. Just fucking do it. And that's kind of the story of Tusk. Walrus, yes. I turned it over to people. They said, Walrus, yes. I said, let's see how far we can go. And it took us all the way to midnight. It did.
Woo! Woo!
All right, we're not going to be able to answer all your questions. I will do a few choice questions. Yes, you, sir, with red lanyard. Yes.
First of all, thank you for including the Fleetwood Mac. Actually, that's something.
The Fleetwood Mac, man, honestly, I was on the fence because it was the most expensive thing in the whole movie. Now, Robert Kurtzman, who built that walrus suit, which I fucking adored, like the whole movie hinges on whether or not you buy that Frankenstein or Leatherface walrus suit, and he pulled it off. He had less money to fucking pull off the special effects than we had to pay for Tusk. So there was a moment where I was like, do we do it or not? Now, in a movie that confounds expectation, there was a school of thought that was like, don't play Tusk, because everyone's expecting it, so fuck them, go the other way. But I cut to Tusk, and it fits so well in the movie, and just particularly at that point, it just lets you know that we're all in on the joke. Just in case anyone's in the audience going, are they fucking serious? That tone of Tusk, I don't know what it is, the big band, whatever the fuck, the marching band, just had that element of like, we're in a circus now, folks, and it's kind of like we're winking at the audience. So we felt like it was worth it. The Demarest folks in A24, they also felt like it was worth it. They could have kiboshed it, but they were like, yeah, totally go for it.
So the same thing, if you talk about working with this magical actor named Gila Prime.
Gila Point. Where did this man come from?
Gila Point, from Canada. He's Quebec cinema. I got very lucky working with, we all got lucky working with Gila Point. Like, it was an incredible, magical experience. I have known Gila Point for a few years through our children. And, you know, but he works in a different world than I ever work in and stuff. And whenever we met and talked and stuff at kid events or our houses, that's whatever the fuck. We talk about movies, but not about like, will you be in my movie? You know, what would I write? That's fucking creepy. And so there was never any talk about that. He's a lovely fucking human being. I respect him. He's been in this business longer than me, and I always look up to the upperclassmen, people who were doing it since I was a fucking kid just watching it. And he's always been one of those cats. So for years, it never occurred to me to ask, hey, come work with him. What would he do? Play Silent Bob's uncle or something? You know, it doesn't. So this thing, I wrote this thing, and the part of Gila Point exists because we did an episode of Smodcast years actually before that episode where we talked about this character, Gila Point. So in the script, I liked it a lot. I knew Michael Parks was playing Howard Howe, and I knew a lot of actors liked Michael Parks, man, because he's been around for a while, and he just makes bizarre choices as an actor that no other actors really makes. Really interesting to watch. So I reached out to him, and I was like, hey, man, I know you must get this a lot, and I hate doing this, but I only ask because I think you like this guy. I said, I made this movie called Red State, and I took it out on my own, and it was a big circus and shit like that, self-distribution, and in the process, I pissed off a lot of fucking people, and the guy who probably deserved the most credit, the guy who should have gotten awards and shit like that, was Michael Parks. And I love the experience of Red State. I have no regrets, but the one regret kind of that I had was that Michael Parks didn't get enough notice. So I said, I'm making this movie Tusk because I want to shine a light on this fucking guy. He's going to play this fucking part, this Howard Howe and stuff, and there's this guy who hunts him down. And I was wondering, I sent him a link to the blog I'd written. I was like, does this sound like anything you're interested in? And he wrote back, I love Michael Parks. And right then and there, I was like, I got him. So he wrote back after that. He was very complimentary and stuff. He read the blog, and he said, this sounds like something I'd like to swim around in. Count me in. So this right before we went shooting, I remember pulling him aside. It was the day after he finally said, all right, I'm going to do this. He committed. And I said, now that you committed, let me tell you the other part of the story. And I told him that. He was like, no. So
you were going back and forth, you were reading the emails back and forth, and you were teasing it, because Kevin, as you I'm sure know, is a great storyteller, so he was really building the suspense. So the whole time I'm thinking, like, who did he get? And the emails are all very, like, articulate and whimsical and kind of poetic in their own way, and just the back and forth of, like, are you going to do this or are you not going to do it? And I'm thinking, like, did he get Bob Dylan? Like, there was somebody sick. Is it the Pope? Is the Pope gonna, like, is Pope Francis gonna, like, I thought it was like and it was somebody it really was like at that level, and it's still
bigger than Pope Francis.
Bigger. And so it really did,
But this is the best way to communicate the magic of Guy Lapointe. I guess by way of a story, an anecdote about the shoot. So we're making this flick. We made 15 days. We shot in North Carolina and only 2 days in Los Angeles. Everything you see with Guy Lapointe was accomplished in 2 days. Now that's easy because there's like 10, 25 pages of dialogue of people sitting in one place. Kids, it's a very helpful tip, man. You burn through dialogue, people sitting in one place. You can accomplish a lot. You do 10 pages a day and shit. So we're shooting that and whatnot, and fuck, I hit a puddle. Oh, so right before we go to shoot, he's in the makeup trailer. We heard that he wanted to wear some stuff on his face and whatnot, and I was like, oh my god, of course. So I got called to the trailer, and he's sitting there, and he's got the nose on, and it's not fully done, but you can see where it's going. And it looks like, even unpainted, looks incredibly real. It's got pores and shit like that. So I was like, hey man, that looks pretty good. And he said, yeah, it really does, but look at it closely. Look at it from this angle. He goes, doesn't it look like a dick? And I looked at it and I said, holy shit, I guess you're right. If you look at it from this angle, it looks like a dick. And he goes, would you mind? He said, are you asking me if you want to wear a dick in your face in this movie? If there was any movie you ever wanted to wear a dick in your face, sir, this is the movie. So, if you look closely, during like the scene where he's doing the big monologue and the Gimli slider, like look at his nose. He's got this big blue vein that runs down here. And then there's just a little cut right at the tip of his nose. You know? That's Guy Lapointe, ladies and gentlemen.
You're not going to get this kind of Q&A in Venice. Just going to say. Okay, we only got time for a couple of questions, so I'm going to say to the blonde and the glasses in the far corner there, yes, stand up and yell it out.
I'm just wondering how you found the balance between the fucked up and the hilarious. From making me laugh hysterically to making me want to call my therapist.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I found the balance. Like, you know, as you watch the movie, it'll occur to a lot of people differently. It'll hit everybody differently. It's nice to hear that the balance worked for you, but I'm sure it's going to hit some people in this weird way of like, what is it? Is it a comedy? Is it a fucking horror movie? Is it a drama? What? And to me, the best way to describe it is it's a Smodcast picture. Like, that is a true cinematic representation of what we do on the podcast. We tell weird stories, we tell funny stories, we tell interesting, scary stories.
You wear dicks on your nose?
We do that as well. So it's kind of, I went for the tone of my podcast. I was just like, let me just do the shit that I like doing. I love fucking doing Smodcast. I love talking about Canada on Smodcast. So I put it all into the flick. But hopefully, I don't know if the balance works. I'm glad to hear it worked for you. I gotta be honest with you, I loved watching it with everybody here. It was phenomenal. I've been sitting on that movie since June of last year in terms of writing and whatnot. And I've always wanted to hear people react to shit, particularly that first wife joke, and it crushed. So I appreciate that, thank you.
And next question goes to the man with a walrus on his head. Yes.
I was wondering if we were just talking a bit about what's going on with Hit Somebody, and would you make me insanely happy to smoke this with me?
Yeah, I'm happy to smoke whatever you're handing me. But what's Hit Somebody? What's happening with Hit Somebody? The Canadian trilogy, the True North trilogy, Tusk right now is part 1 of the True North trilogy. The next part, we've already started shooting. We're 3 weeks into the movie. It's called Yoga Hosers, and it's based around the 2 girls in the movie. It's so weird, I can share it because you guys have seen it. So the whole fucking movie of Yoga Hosers takes place there's a flashback that takes place during the time of Tusk. But it's predicated on those 2 girls in the convenience store, and it's like what happened in their life 1 year later when they saved what the newspapers called the Manitoba Manatee. And they get really irritated because they have to explain to people like he was a walrus and shit like that. So, I'm just like, I'm just gonna make shit that makes me happy, kind of movies I like to make. I fell in love with the idea of making a movie about 2 15-year-old Canadian girls who hate America so much. That's what we're in the process of making it. And it's kind of like we call it Tusk for teens because it's PG-13. As much as Tusk is like R and weird, Yoga Hosers is PG-13 and fucking weird. And it sounds very superficial or very simple comedic, but we've kept the really weird wackadoo shit hidden. The walrus is hidden in that movie. We'll let you know what it is later. But somebody asked me what is it? And I said, I don't know how else to describe it except it is the fucking movie that I would have loved to have seen when I was a 15-year-old girl. So that's the second one, and then after that is the aforementioned Moose Jaw. So this little Canadian True North trilogy I'm making is the bridge to Hit Somebody. Hit Somebody was tough to mount for a while. This makes it way easier to be like, look, I'm doing Canada. And that's something I've dreamed about for so long. I really wanted to do Hit Somebody because I always wanted to kind of make my Valentine to Canada, and that's definitely what Hit Somebody is. But this is a nice kind of preamble to it, and the next 2, and then boom, I can jump into what I consider to be the masterwork, Hit Somebody.
Now, before we ask the final question, I got an email from someone who bought a Midnight Madness package, who bought the Midnight Madness package because your podcast got her through a lot. Her parents, I believe, passed away, and she had to go to Poland to look after, I believe it was her grandmother or grandfather. Where are you? You know the person who, are you still here? Because I want to point you out to Kevin. Don't say you left. Where are you? Stand up. So she sent this remarkable email because she had to go to Poland for 6 months to look after her relative. 2 years. And she said she was away from her friends, it was a big move, but what she had was the internet and she had your podcast to keep her level. So that girl in the dark there, seeing this film tonight and hearing this come meant a lot.
Welcome, thank you, man.
Okay, so one last question and let's make it good for the person who's jumping up and down. Yes, you!
Thank you, sir. Kevin, I wanted to thank you so much for this. I'm a huge fan of yours.
Thank you.
The podcast has got me through a lot. Not necessarily being born or anything, sorry about that. But I'm really passionate about what you do. Love you so much.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to ask, I've heard the podcast many, many times. And so you and Scott read the article. And so this British guy, did he ever contact you saying,
He's in the movie. Well, number one, I couldn't dream. This guy, folks, remember I talked about the article, it was an ad on a website called Gumtree.uk that advertises for living arrangements, hence Gregory Gumtree. So the ad was written by, it wasn't real, it turned out to be a hoax. When we did the episode of Smodcast, we didn't know whether it was real or not. We thought it was real. We bought it 100%. And then like a week later, it outed that this guy, Chris Parkinson, in Brighton, England, had invented. They called him Hoaxster Chris Parkinson. So we reached out to Hoaxer Chris Parkinson and we were like, how would you like to produce a Hollywood movie? And I told him, I was like, dude, I wrote a script. I mean, you heard the podcast, I'm not kidding. Like, I'm actually going forward with it, so would you come out and be involved? So he's an executive producer, he shares a card with Jason Mewes. And then in the movie, when they're looking for Wallace and they go to Canada and they track back to Bar H, he's sitting on the bar. He looks like Wolverine because he's got these long chopped spurs, and he's the right size for Wolverine, right height.
He was what you would think somebody who produced that was. He was like an impish little rascal. He was like a little troublemaker. He was a really sweet guy.
He changed my life. I don't know these guys, but he changed my life because he chose wisely. Like he could have picked any fucking animal, but he picked a walrus. You know what I'm saying? Like if it had been a horse, we'd be like, yeah, fucking horse, whatever. Moved on to the next thing. Whatsoever. If it had been a dog or a fucking cat, whatever, but it was a walrus, and that just captures people's imagination a little bit, because if you tell somebody like, I'm gonna turn you into fucking something, they go, oh, that's horrible. But if you go, I'm gonna turn you into a walrus, they go, oh, how do you do that? You know? Because those things don't add up, so they start thinking about it. All you need is this much space to capture somebody's imagination, so hopefully that's what Tusk does, captures people going like, what does that look like? And I loved, I gotta be honest with you, I've been waiting almost a year to be in a room with a bunch of people when we did that fucking rack zoom out, and you see him dressed as a walrus, and you guys did not disappoint. It was awesome. Oh, it was so awesome. I really don't regret it. So thank you for that.
So thank you to you guys, and thank you to Team Tusk.
Love you!
It's a fan. Come from Ukraine.
Oh,
757.
I've got an evening. I've got an evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you.